So the other day, I'm sitting in the makeup room of a TV studio, and welcome back to the second hour of our program, by the way. and the person who is doing my makeup is telling me about this, how she shops. I don't remember how we got into the conversation, but she's like, "Well, I got this really cool thing on my phone, and there's a word for it. In fact, I've since now forgotten the word, and it may be that JD Tichelli knows what it is, but she said, I'll walk into like Bed Bath & Beyond or Macy's or something like that. I'll see something I like, and I just take a picture of it with my phone, and it immediately tells me how much the price is on Amazon or other online vendors. And if the price is lower, I just push the button, and boom, I've bought it, and it comes delivered to me. And with Amazon Prime, you don't even have to pay shipping, and you never pay sales tax. And as a consequence of this, I mean, it used to be that the internet was basically cutting away the profits of the small people, but now you've got even the big guys starting to get seriously hurt. Best Buy's, Bed Bath & Beyond, Macy's, some of these very, very large big box vendors. Because early on we said, we really want to encourage this internet thing. This is back in the 80s. This looks like it has the potential to really, be something that's going to help the American economy. And of course, we had the internet bubble during the Clinton years, and so let's drive this internet thing. Let's give it a kickstart by saying that if you buy something on the internet, you don't have to pay state income tax. Now, at that point in time, writing code for the internet was a real challenge. I remember learning HTML early on, and coming up with a way to come up with sales tax and all, and then paying the sales tax and collecting the sales tax. It was a real hassle. All of that's been radically simplified now. Pretty much any vendor, any credit card vendor has built into their system the ability to collect taxes and pay them to the various states. So why don't we do that? JD Tichelli is with us. JD is the managing editor for Reason 24/7, reason.com, the website. JD, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So, it seems to me that companies on the internet not paying state sales tax is pretty much analogous, even though they're doing business in that state via the internet, and that state is picking up the cost of protecting the rights of way that bring the broadband into each person's home. That's not that different from American companies, American oil companies, for example, who want us to use our Navy to protect their shipping lines, who want us to provide them with an educated workforce, who want our fire and police departments to protect their headquarters, and yet they set up, over 100 tax havens overseas so that ExxonMobil pays no taxes whatsoever. Basically, we get screwed.
I'm not sure that maintaining the side of the road and trimming the weeds is quite comparable to Exxon freeloading on aircraft carriers. I mean, one of the basic objections to the internet sales tax is that companies based out of state really aren't, by and large, using the same kind of services as a brick-and-mortar store. If a company's based in Washington State, like Amazon is, and it's selling via a website to customers in California or Arizona.
Well, Amazon has fulfillment centers all over the country.
Well, it does, and it doesn't have a nexus everywhere, but it does have a lot more nexuses, which is the legal term, nexus, I guess, than most companies do. But your average internet vendor has a limited presence in many of the states where it's selling.
Right.
It's not using the same kind of services. It's not using water. It's not using sewer. It's not using the police. It's not using the fire department. And it's also not voting for the people who determine those tax rates.
Well, it is using all of those things, though, for the rights of way, for the common rights of way that allow it to be present in your home via the internet.
Well, an internet connection is something that permeates all around us. I mean, it's we might have broadband. Everybody uses that. That's vendors in state. That's non-vendors, non-commercial purposes.
Well, wait a minute. The same is true of television. We had this debate back in the 1960s, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection is that if I advertise something on television, hey, buy this Ginsu knife right now. Call this toll-free number, and we'll ship it to you. I have to, and you're in Connecticut. I have to collect Connecticut sales tax.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily make that a good legal precedent.
But it works.
The vendor in Connecticut still doesn't have a presence in New York or in New Jersey, but
it does. It's on television in each one of those places.
But by that same argument, if you're really going to stick by that argument, don't American websites have a presence in Saudi Arabia? I mean, that same argument could say that, well, then you're present in Saudi Arabia. Wouldn't Saudi Arabia's somewhat restrictive rules, say to displays on the internet, apply to an American website?
Well, we could turn this into a conversation about international trade and whether or not we should have export or import tariffs, but that's a whole different thing than the Constitution's giving the federal government the right to regulate commerce among and between the states. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about interstate commerce.
The Constitution does give the federal government the right to regulate interstate commerce. That doesn't mean it's a good idea to let states where business doesn't have a physical presence tax that business.
But if it's a bad idea, wouldn't the state simply lose out?
Well, the state may end up losing out. I mean, California had a bit of a spat with Amazon over collecting sales taxes. That was eventually resolved. But you're also opening the way, if you let these states tax businesses that aren't present there, you're opening the way for a lot more conflicts in the future with businesses great and small. The small businesses are going to have a lot less clout than Amazon did in battling hikes in sales taxes.
But a small business right now, if they sell on my radio show or on my TV show, and somebody buys as a consequence of that, somebody calls a toll-free number and buys as a consequence of that, they're going to have to pay a state sales tax in whatever state they're in. If, on the other hand, they go to a website and buy it, they don't have to pay a state sales tax. That makes no sense to me. Now, I get it. Your position is nobody should ever pay any taxes ever, right?
Well, ideally, that would be nice in my case, but that we don't have to go there to make that argument.
And maybe that's if that's your core argument, then maybe what we're looking at really is a fundamental difference in opinion about the nature of taxation and government.
I think you and I probably have very strongly different opinions on this, but even without going to that fundamental philosophical difference, and that is a fundamental one, there probably are halfway points that make more sense. For instance, maybe applying sales taxes at the state where the business actually has a physical residence to all the sales it makes. It's a lot easier for the business to deal with one jurisdiction than multiple jurisdictions, thousands of jurisdictions actually around the country. And it actually then also has a say in the government that's applying the tax to it.
The one thing that you missed in your list, JD, of we were talking about the internet is using the common rights of way, and so they are using the weed whackers and the people who are maintaining the polls and all that kind of thing. But the other piece of the commons that you and I have not talked about is the impact of internet sales on local businesses within the state. And if you have businesses within states being put out of business, and we certainly saw this with bookstores when Amazon first emerged as this major book retailer. And, you could argue that Barnes & Noble and a couple of the other big chains, Borders and whatnot, put the local bookstores out of business first. But now even Barnes & Noble and Borders has gone out of business, in large part because of Amazon. So if these in-state businesses are being wiped out by internet-based companies that are able to operate at an advantage because they don't have to pay sales tax, shouldn't the state be able to collect sales tax and use some of that money to support in-state businesses to keep them competitive?
But that kind of variable cost you're talking about, and that's what we're referring to, is untaxed. There's a cost that an out-of-state business doesn't pay.
It's almost an intangible.
That applies across the board, though. I mean, you can have different labor costs. A company that does business on the internet almost certainly has lower real estate costs than a brick-and-mortar store does. It may have a lower utility cost because of where it's based.
All the more reason why they should pay state sales tax to compensate for the inappropriate competition.
How is that inappropriate? That's just a competitive advantage.
Well, yeah, it's a competitive advantage. It's putting out of business local businesses, and if we agree that local businesses are a societal value, don't we want to do something to compensate for that? Or do we disagree on that too?
Efficient, competitive local businesses that can float their own boats are of value.
Okay, we'll leave you with the final word on that. JD Tichelli at Reason.com. Thank you, JD.
Thank you for having me on.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So what do you think? Do you think that if you buy something on the internet, you should not have to pay sales tax in the state in which you live? Or should you? And if you were a business owner, how would you feel differently?